You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And I understand, intellectually, I understand why some people, wrongly, but some people say there's superhero movie fatigue. I understand that because unless you're in the weeds and you know the subtle differences between Sony Marvel movies and an MCU and the DCEU, it just all seems the same to you if you're just a casual fan. But if you know the difference, you know that it's not people being tired of superhero movies. People are tired of trash. And although Venom: The Last Dance is trash, and although everyone knows it's trash, including Sony, they're going to keep putting it out because there's a segment of this population which will go see it no matter what. Talk about this from a business standpoint. The number one movie this week, once again, for the third week in a row, is Venom: The Last Dance. I think it has a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 0, maybe 1. The budget was $120 million. It has already grossed more than almost $400 million worldwide. It's making money for Sony. If you know the history, you know the first Venom had a higher budget and also brought in more than $800 million. But this, even though it's trash, is still bringing in money for the company. What does that mean? Well, they may say it's The Last Dance, but it's not the last Sony superhero movie. And Sony has been churning out these bad, quote-unquote, superhero movies for a profit for the better part of 10 years now. You can talk about how bad Madam Web is. It didn't slow them down. Sony, they're still going to have a Kraven the Hunter movie. They had a Morbius movie. That was bad. All these Sony movies are bad. The first 2 Venom movies are bad, but they kept making money for the company. So when people say that we, all of us, are tired of superhero movies, number one, no, we're not. Even the bad ones are making money. And as long as they continue to make money, then the studios will continue to make them. Mark Ronner makes the perfect point about how most of the horror genre today, they're not good movies, but they're very inexpensive. And they produce multipliers. As far as an $8 million budget, it may bring in $56 million.
Yeah, they don't have the same kind of bloated budgets as a Marvel movie, so they really make your money back. If you and I, Mo, were going to invest in movies, I would force you to invest in horror films.
I would in a heartbeat. I'm just waiting for someone to say, hey, Mo, do you want to get in on this new, I don't know, like a Winnie the Pooh intellectual property thing where they buy up some intellectual property that became public domain and they're going to make a movie for $100,000. It'll probably bring in $3 million. Give me an EP credit. Yes. Let's go make some money together.
Yeah, we got to look at the PD lists every single year because more and more stuff falls into the public domain that we can just destroy for a handsome profit.
Yeah, I don't know how you get in, to be at the top of the list. You have to be waiting there at midnight on a certain day and then refile it.
Well, a lot of this is for older stuff. And so there, I forget what the rules are, but it's X number of decades after the creator dies.
Mm-hmm.
So, that explains Winnie the Pooh. That explains some Sherlock Holmes stuff, H.P. Lovecraft stuff.
But then you can, I believe, anyone after it enters public domain, anyone who has a take on said character, as long as it strays away from the exact original, can do something. So it's not first come, first serve, because anyone could do a take on a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. The individuals who did were just the first to do so.
Well, I think we need to do a Winnie the Pooh porno then. There's got to be a market out there.
Oh, Pooh.
Come here with that honey, baby.
Starring Ron Jeremy as Eeyore.
I don't think he's starring as anything.
You're
anymore.
probably right. He'd have to get on work release from prison, wouldn't he?
But here's the point. The number 2 movie this week, Heretic, that you reviewed as part of the Ronner Report.
Yes.
Its budget under $10 million. It's so low they didn't even list it.
I'm surprised it was even that much. The whole movie takes place in a house. Seriously.
And it grossed $13.5 million in its first week worldwide. It's already made back all of its money.
And it's not bad either. It's a decent, well-written, well-filmed, well-acted movie. So good on them. I think it's A24 that put that out.
It is A24.
It is, yeah.
Number 3 was the best Christmas pageant ever. Not familiar. It's Lionsgate.
Wait, what?
The best Christmas pageant ever. Nobody is ready for the mayhem and surprises that ensue when 6 of the worst youngsters disrupt the town's yearly Christmas performance. That sounds very boring, but it still brought in $10.7 million. It's not for me. I'm not the target audience, and I'm secure in that.
Too early.
The best Christmas pageant in November? No. Once you pass Halloween, it's Christmas season just about everywhere.
I'm against it.
Number 4, Wild Robot is still hanging in there. Brought in another $6.6 million. Another horror film, Smile 2, came in at number 5 with $5.1 million for a total of $123 million. Look, the horror movies make money.
Oh, we're getting a Smile 3. Make no mistake.
Conclave. That's kind of horror.
Well, depending.
That's what I'm saying. Kind of. Brought in $21.8 million altogether so far. And it brought in $4 million this week. And it goes on down. Coming in at number 10 this week is Terrifier 3. It's grossed $78 million worldwide. I'm guessing its budget was under 15.
Oh, wow. Okay. So even that's too much trash even for me to sit through. I watched the first one, and it's nothing but an evil clown just killing people in horrifying ways. That's it. That's the whole movie.
But no one is saying, oh, we're just tired of horror movies. No, if there's a market for it, if there's an audience for it, they will keep making the movies, especially if they're profitable. Maybe not on the range of these blockbuster superhero movies, but it's not. And I hate when people say, I'm tired of these superhero movies. No one is forcing you to go to any of these movies. I'm tired of bad Martin Scorsese movies, but you don't see me complaining. I just don't go. Look, I'm not a fan of rom-coms. I've seen most of the rom-coms up through the early 2000s. After that, I kind of checked out. I don't care for rom-coms. If the next version of The Notebook is coming out, I'm not going to see it. I'm not a romantic like that. I don't appreciate those movies. But if they make 25 of them over the next 5 years, it's still not going to affect me. Why? Because I'm not going to change my movie-going habits. You can find rom-coms anywhere. It's not like I'm saying, oh my gosh, I'm just sick of seeing them.
It's the contrarians that are going on and on and on about their hate for superhero genre films. Either these are individuals who feel left out of the genre and feel that they must attack what they perceive as being this exclusive club of films for nerds, and it's really not.
Oh, you mean Martin Scorsese?
Like
all
folks
right.
like that.
And Steven Spielberg.
You can hammer on that all you want, but I will say we're going back and forth over the weekend, all three of us, and we had seen the trailers for the new Captain America movie with the Falcon as the new Cap.
Yes, we cannot say anything about your response.
No, but we also we're passing back and forth.
Can't.
The new Thunderbolts trailer. Those both look incredibly fun.
Yeah.
Here's what people forget. Marvel had one movie in 2024. One. So if you're saying that people are tired of superhero movies and you don't know that Marvel only had one movie this year, then you clearly aren't paying attention or don't understand the difference between the MCU and everybody else.
And their one film did damn near $2.5 billion.
Yeah. So what are we talking about? Are you really that tired? No. You just were tired of the mediocre and less than movies, because when they brought it, when they really came with it, you were right there. Your ass was in the front row, and you saw, for a movie to cross at least $1 billion, you're seeing it multiple times. People are going back to see it multiple times. I can't speak for that Avatar BS. I'm talking about real movies with real fans and real tickets purchased.
I still haven't seen the new Avatar, nor will I.
And that's my point.
Not
because
for free.
There are far too many people that I know, that I respect. I can't find someone who actually saw that movie more than once.
Oh, yeah,
if at all.
It's a green eggs and ham situation minus the ending for me. Not in a house, not with a mouse. I'm not watching that movie.
You know what? And the movie itself wasn't bad, but it was so stereotypical, so predictable, so formulaic. It didn't have any of the supposed magic of the first one. At least in the first one, you can say, okay, they created a new world. You can say that they were characters that we hadn't seen before. A lot of tropes, but the characters were at least different, and it was a different story. This one, the second one just seemed like they didn't have a story to tell.
The first one bored me to tears. They get no more of my time. Life is short.
Oh, the second one is even more boring.
Okay.
Oh, it's really boring.
Thanks for taking the bullet on that one.
Well, it's the least I could do for a friend.
There'll be more.
It's later with Mo Kelly. I don't know about that. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And let's talk about Microcinemas. They're popping up all over LA. And last year, for example, Vidiot's Foundation opened its first micro theater in Eagle Rock. In fact, Quentin Tarantino, you might have heard of him, updated the Vista in Hollywood to include a video archive cinema club. And the Gardena Cinema leaned into a counter-programming strategy. Each night, you can see a highbrow classic at the Academy Museum's upscale David Geffen Theater. I've been there, and the sound and projection are wonderful. And there are over dozens of venues across Southern California, from Santa Monica to Hollywood to Los Feliz, and they have all these screenings with filmmakers, actors, and experts. Or maybe you just want to see an off-the-beaten-path movie or an oldie. These tiny venues are usually filled with about a couple dozen seats at most, instead of the hundreds that you and I are accustomed to if we're going to see an IMAX screening. Would you like to see one of your old favorites, but just in something which is a little bit larger than your living room? Well, you can do that at like Soho Cinema Club. And they have Super 8mm film to CinemaScope. They have live magic shows. And it's a really, really small, hidden away venue on a side street in Hollywood. I don't know if this is going to be a huge trend, but I understand how these smaller venues have to offer something a little bit more exclusive, a little bit more intimate, a little bit more off the beaten path to get people to come out. Now, it may not be a huge moneymaker, but I think it's the natural evolution of what we may call like an open mic, where you're getting to see film, you're getting to see art, but these are micro venues where you're not trying to bring in 100 people, but you might bring in 15 to 20. And if you can find a good location for one of these, you can, like the coffee houses of old, have a consistent clientele coming in 3 or 4 nights a week. It seems like maybe people are considering going small in everything we do. Just like, you know, the tiny house phenomenon? I get the ads for them on Facebook all the time. The tiny houses where they're basically the size of a dorm room, 2-story dorm room, but you have 4 walls. It may be the size of an ADU in someone's backyard. But tiny houses are beginning to become a thing, especially in a place like California, where the cost of living and obviously cost of property is so very high. People are tending to go smaller with their lifestyles. Smaller houses, smaller venues, smaller events. And this might be the trend going forward to kind of balance off the cost of everything out here. Maybe you go to a smaller theater and see a movie which may not be first run, but you can see it for $5 instead of $25. That's another reason why people are possibly skittish from going to the movies, because it's almost an investment. If you are a young person, and let's say when I was growing up, the first date was always a movie, dinner and a movie. It was a real easy thing to do. It wasn't a lot of pressure. You can go get some food. You can watch a movie, enjoy each other's company. But tickets back then weren't more than maybe $6, $7. And if you had like a dollar night or a matinee show, you didn't have to spend much money at all. Now you can easily spend a good $100 for a couple going to the movies and getting some food. And depending where you are economically, that can be a lot of money. A lot. And so I could see how people would go to these micro cinemas. I don't know, Mark, have you ever seen one? I've been to the David Geffen Theater.
No,
had a lot of
not in LA, but I was anxious to try out the one at the Vista. There was a place in Seattle I used to go to all the time called the Grand Illusion, which was, I don't know if it's quite micro. What's the cutoff between micro and normal? But it was tiny. And the thing is that a lot of these are for like cult type movies. And And it's fun to watch those with fellow degenerates and nerds. Like I just told you before the show that over the weekend I watched the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, which was one of the all-time classic 70s Shaw Brothers martial arts movies. To watch that in a room of like-minded nerds, that would be a ton of fun.
Yeah. And I think especially if you could get it with like-minded individuals, like you're saying, fellow nerds, if you maybe just get all the guys together, like when we go to the theater, it's fun because we're in that communal environment and we all love movies as long as other people leave us alone.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I used to love about going to the New Beverly, because they just mainly show older cult films. You've got everybody there who loves what they're about to see. Most people have seen it again, but the people who are discovering it for the first time, that's cool to be with them as well. Sometimes you get somebody who's involved with the picture there to introduce it or something. I really miss the communal aspect of going to movies that COVID generally destroyed.
You hit on something which is key. I like seeing these older movies, but they're usually presented by someone who's either connected to it, can provide some insight with it, or more than just the movie itself. It could be a Q&A after the fact, and you get to meet some of the original cast, even though it's not a new movie, but it's a new way to experience and enjoy the movie.
Oh, yeah. And I see stuff on YouTube all the time. Like imagine having William Friedkin do a Q&A before or after The Exorcist, or like I watched one not long ago of Robert Culp for the movie he directed called Hickey and Boggs. I think that was at the New Beverly. These events are priceless because also a lot of these people, they're getting up there in years, and you want a chance to see them talk about their work.
Well, to that point, since they are getting up in years, and since you get these, I would say, exclusive opportunities to meet with people from the cast or the director, thanks to social media, you have a chance to memorialize it in a way that you couldn't 15 years ago or so, or 20 years ago. You get to actively engage and keep that. And look, I was never an autograph guy. I was always a photo guy. I always like to be able to say, hey, I was there with so-and-so, or I got to meet so-and-so. Even while people were collecting autographs, I never collected autographs. I think, to my mind, I got a signed autograph picture of the Good Times cast in the 1970s.
Really?
And they all signed it. You can see all the different signatures.
Cool.
Yeah, I just got to find it. It's somewhere at my mother's house. Because back in the day, I know I'm digressing, but back in the day, you would write CBS and, you get a response, and you could tell. And in later years, I've matched the signatures with their signatures elsewhere thanks to the internet. And I could see it was authentic. You had John Amos, Esther Roll, and others, and Jimmy Walker, but other than that, I've never collected signatures. I always wanted the picture with the person.
Yeah, I'm not a big autograph hound, and a lot of the times they're with people I've interviewed, and that to me is the special thing. But like, just as another example of a local event that was just priceless, they showed Thunderball, the James Bond movie, at the New Beverly a couple of years or so ago, and Luciana Paluzzi was there. And so I got a couple photos
that's kind of cool
with her, Fiona from the movie.
Yeah.
I asked her if I could hug her, and she let me hug her without stabbing me.
Thank you. At least you asked.
Oh, you got to ask.
You didn't like just take it upon yourself and just, force yourself upon her.
No, I didn't say this is for Queen and Country and then force a hug on her. No, but those kind of things are just great fun, and they bring people together who like all these kinds of movies. Like another one that I went to before the plague started was the Egyptian here. Had
the Egyptian's cool. Yeah.
Had the Halloween 3 and
Season of the Witch.
And a couple others with Tom Atkins. You remember him, the actor? He's still with us, and he was there, and he answered questions after the movie. Priceless, great fun.
Well, maybe Microcinemas have a future here in LA. We'll continue to tell you about them as it happens. It's later with Mo Kelly. We're going to recap the Penguin season finale, which was made available on the Max app, HBO Max app, yesterday. And we got to tell you, we're not going to ruin it for Mark Ronner, who's midway through the series. But let me just say this up front. You have to see this series if you like anything about gangster or mob television shows. It's that good. We'll give you more in just a moment.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
We were talking about, hey, I'm tired of these superhero movies. I'm just tired of them. I'm tired of it. let me give you something to consider. If you're a fan of gangster TV shows, like let's say you're a fan of The Sopranos. Let's say that you are a fan of The Wire. Let's say that you're a fan of even Succession, because there's a Succession-esque portion to this show. I highly recommend that you check out The Penguin, starring Colin Farrell. Yes, it is directly connected to the events of the movie The Batman. Matt Reeves, The Batman, with Robert Pattinson starring. It's connected to that. In fact, the show picks up episode 1 right after the final events of the movie The Batman. But outside of that, unless you are deep, deep, deep into Batman lore and know certain names and certain families, it is just like any other gritty, vulgar, profane gangster tale, which is set in a city called Gotham, which is by all appearances New York City in every way. It doesn't even look like a comic book version of Gotham. It looks like modern day New York in every way. Same types of issues, same types of feel. In fact, it takes place in the United States. Now, if you look at Batman and DC, it doesn't take place in quote unquote the United States. You have cities like National City, Metropolis, Gotham, Central City, all fictitious cities. But this takes place in the United States. And they even Gotham has boroughs. I didn't know that until this series. But now they have boroughs like they have Manhattan and Brooklyn and the Bronx and Staten Island, Coney Island, just like that. It is a gritty, violent TV show.
It is violent. I have a couple episodes to go, but I was watching one last night, and an extremely violent thing completely took me off guard and made me understand, nobody's safe here, are they?
Nobody is safe. Last night, the season finale dropped, and all I can say is nobody is safe. There are characters who are introduced throughout the season from episode 1 all the way through. And you will see some very familiar faces. Actor Theo Rossi, who plays Dr. Julian Rush, you may remember him from other Marvel. Which one did he do?
He was in Luke Cage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Luke Cage. Kristen Milioti, who plays Sophia Falcone, is a star. She steals.
This is her show, yeah.
Yeah, she steals most scenes that she's in. It may be called the Penguin, but you might as well call it the Falcone, because everything turns on the actions of her. That's all I can say. It is so well written and so well acted. You're going to find yourself. Clancy Brown is really good as Salvatore Maroni. If you're a Clancy Brown fan,
he's kind of your utility player bad guy, isn't he?
Yes. And actor Michael Kelly, you may remember him from House of Cards. He played White House Chief of Staff. He's a very, very good character actor. If he's on Lioness, if you see him, you've seen him 1,000 times. It's a well balanced cast of serious actors and actresses who, in their own right, can fill up a screen. Highly recommend this show.
This is a show that should absolutely be within award contention in all categories, from acting, writing to costuming and makeup. Yep. This is a story that is so engrossing, and unlike every other HBO/Max series that has come before it, which they usually end on a really bad note. Most HBO or Max series, they end on a note which you say, I watched this entire series for that. This is a series that went out with such a bang. And I'm telling you, if you know anything of the Batman lore, and like say maybe you look at a film like The Joker, where you say, there's no way this guy could have contended with the likes of a Batman. This is a Penguin who absolutely could stand 10 toes down against the likes of a Batman.
And you do not need to know anything about Batman source material. Not not the movie, The Batman. I told you as far as context, it picks up right after the movie, the events of the movie, but you do not need to have seen the movie. You do not need to know anything about Batman. If you just like gangster television shows, this show is for you. You don't need to know anything going in. And that's another selling point. You're not bogged down by Easter eggs or bogged down by source material that you don't know, you haven't read or you haven't seen.
Oh, it's very entry level, I guess is the comic industry term for this. You don't need to know a thing. And in fact, that's one of the initial things that I had a problem with, which is, why is this show embarrassed to be from a comic book? But if you stick with it, I think you'll be satisfied.
Yeah, I think you know that it's from a comic book, but if you just turned it on and just watched it, there's nothing cartoonish or comic book-ish about it. They're not exaggerated stereotypes or personalities.
There's no Mr. Freeze walking around turning people into human gangster sickles.
Right, because there are no costumes.
No.
They're not, they're not dressed up playing these caricatures. They're just people, and it's basically the mob. I can say that. It's the mob and how it has taken over Gotham, and you see the rise of one man, and it's told over many, many years, all the steps that he took to eventually get into a degree of power, the chess moves that he made while people always underestimated him or assumed that he was too stupid to do what he was doing. And
they have the nerve to make him an extremely unlikable character, but with just enough redemption in the form of his relationship with a young, apprentice criminal, that you don't completely hate him. Also, you're talking about Kristen Milioti, that without spoiling anything for anybody, there's an episode that explains her backstory in Arkham Asylum. I guarantee you she's going to get an Emmy for that.
Well, you think about the great gritty dramas. Look, it's almost like you're watching Orange is the New Black mixed in with The Sopranos and Oz.
Man, even more, because now I understand the Batman's real world approach to telling this character story and not making him fantastical, making the Robert Pattinson Batman a character who used his wealth to, armor up with things that you may be able to get. Like in most films, Batman, he was a superhero. This film, he's literally a vigilante. And you see now that this world can produce a Batman who is just a vigilante, someone who has the wealth enough to arm himself and go up against individuals like that. And I like how they grounded. I look back now at the Riddler and I say, now I see why, because I was going into the Batman looking for a superhero film, and instead we got real world. And now I'm like, it all makes sense now.
All I can say is, you think of the great mob monsters in lore. The Penguin is on that list. He is a monster, and they show you, they don't tell you. It's violent, it's vulgar, and it's fantastic.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And before we get out of here, we talked about this story in the first segment of the show. Now we have to really talk about it. You may have heard it in the newscast with Mark Ronner. I don't think it's a mistake. I just don't. But when Mattel had to pull Wicked from the movie and musical, Wicked dolls, after quote unquote mistakenly listing an adult porn site on packaging, I'm saying it's not a mistake. It wasn't like it was a mistaken link to a grocery store, something innocuous. Why does it always have to be porn? Everything leads back to porn. Mattel pulled its Wicked dolls after packaging for the movie merchandise mistakenly listed a website to an adult porn site rather than to the Wicked movie website. I'm sure it was just a great, big, long misunderstanding. No one meant to do this.
A long misunderstanding? Wait, what did you say?
Nothing. Quote, Mattel made aware of a misprint on the packaging of the Mattel Wicked collection dolls, primarily sold in the U.S., which intended to direct consumers to the official wickedmovie.com landing page. This is according to a statement in the Hollywood Reporter. We deeply regret this unfortunate error, and are taking immediate action to remedy this. Parents are advised that the misprinted, incorrect website is not appropriate for children. Let me stop there. You need to put a parental advisory saying that the porn website that you say was not intentionally put there is not for children? Is that what they're saying?
You got to tell people everything. You can't assume anybody's got a lick of common sense these days.
You said lick.
I guess I did.
You're telling me that you had to tell parents that the porn site website is not appropriate for children. They had to put that in the statement.
Yes, pornography generally not appropriate for children.
Here we go. There's more. Consumers who already have the product are advised to discard the product packaging or obscure the link and may contact Mattel customer service for further information. What is it I'm going to contact Mattel for? Excuse me, but there's a link to Pornhub on my Wicked doll.
Yeah, they're going to talk you through it.
What do I need to do to remove it? Almost said something else. But what is it I need to do to not navigate to the porn website? What is it I'm supposed? What is Mattel going to tell me? Just don't navigate there? Just don't point your browser there?
You know, for collectability, and just because I am a collector, I think I'm going to have to try to hurry up and grab one of these.
You said grab.
Oh, yeah, they'll probably be valuable on eBay soon. You better.
Yeah.
The character dolls with the mislabeled packaging feature fashion and singing ones, along with collectible varieties, and include Grande's Glinda and Erivo's Elphaba dolls. As for the misprint, those who want information on the movie should visit the film's official site. What are we, idiots? We didn't make the mistake.
Yes.
When you're telling me that it was supposed to go to wickedmovie.com, I'm pretty sure that's where the actual movie website is. If I put in pornhub.com expecting it to go to wickedmovie.com, then I'm the idiot. But that's not what I'm doing. If I put in pornhub.com, as it says on the package, I don't know what website it was, okay? That's neither here nor there. I'm expecting it to go where that website is pointing.
Isn't Wicked the name of a production company?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Entertainment.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'd do a thorough check as a journalist here, but not on a company computer. It's not going to happen.
If people only saw your text messages, Mark Runner.
Let's just keep those between us.
I'm just saying, if they only knew what we knew about you.
Those are private, and we're adults. Those are between male adult buddies.
When you put it like that, you're making it weirder than it already is.
Oh, it's not like we're sitting in a steam room together or anything. Just relax.
In the steam room talking
just
about
relax. Just relax.
Yeah.
It'll go easier if you just relax. It's Later with Mo Kelly. It's I'm quite sure we have completely pissed off George Norrie.
I bet he's kind of tensed up right now.
KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
The news has been updated. Click to refresh. KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live every